meet on the other episode of Accountability Conversation. Right now I'm joined by a crew. They will introduce themselves starting from...
Okay, Salonani, Rodney, Jele, Councillor 122 and 120 a good man.
Okay.
Salonani, Mudzengi, and it is a group, but I'm also a programs officer, a voice of the voiceless.
Sociability, Andile, Ndlovu,
Yeah. So today we are talking about all things related to public finance. What do you understand about the public finance?
Maybe you see into summarize this keyword. You see into I think public finance ngakuqathanisa lasendlini ukuthi kulobaba kulomama kulabantwana ubaba ngahamba eyesebenza mina umama bekwazi ukuthi ubaba ukhona malini and what are the plans sehlala phansi lo mama labantwana so kuplanwa ke khona phana. So I think basically kuyafanana nje laphandle ngasikhuluma public finance ukuthi it's just a way where we budget for the country or for the city. Lesifaka nomthetho ukuthi imali esizasithola yini sizasebenza njani and how are we going to govern imali zakhona.
Okay.
I think public finance, management of public finance in general, it should be a public affair, and into ewuthi kumele wonke umuntu azwisise ukuthi lalapho angacontributor khona ukuthi ukwanise ukuthi imali le etholakalayo, be it a government, be it a council, be it a homestead or however, kube into yokuthi kuyazwisisa ukuthi definitely wonke umuntu is involved decide ukuthi imali leyo izasebenza njani.
I think maybe we'll conclude that document. It's an issue of what is Imali, the government, the local authorities, and also a crucial component about that, which is their governance issues. Ultimately, agencies or what are the protocols that are involved in the public involved on that. We must design the water change or Miss Miracle and Council, some of the representative, which must be in the place of Colorado, maybe a government by a team. Whatever constituencies to have better in
Okay. So first things first, what are good practice in public finance management?
But I think first of all, the consultation. We are talking maybe local authority, which at the end of the day, my mind is around the local authority are so my office, the another plan, so my other services are plan. Nabantu we babahlala established service. So consultation is one of the good practices, and obviously at the end of the day, after all is been said and done, when we audit NINC to kind into the hand according to plan or according to what was agreed.
Some of the critical components might include the issues to do with the accountability and transparency within the civil service management. We be in a situation whereby Madana Civil Services is a consultant.
So do you deal with the transparency?
I would say in courts there is transparency. The use of money was a funds there. So there is an issue of university consultation. Before even that money is there, you have to have consult with priority areas what are the priority areas that we need as a city, we need as a sanitation, we need as a health, and then if they're now spending that money, that's where the challenge is. They will take tendering process here. I'll just be using Mr. Jele as a council. Tendering system will be a bias towards our double collection. So Cllr going for a corruption. Many issues is working on another food.
I think said most of it. But I think another key component in how, I think I'll speak more precisely to how public funds are sourced. I think there needs to be a approach as sociability, a development-centered approach as opposed to an economic growth-centered approach. Ngoba nxa kufocuswa on economic growth of umphakathi, kusuka kube ne unnecessary debt that is not future-oriented. So I think it's important in sourcing those public funds, kube le development-centered approach eyiyo ezanceda ukuthi minimize debt so that future generations don't bear the burden of our current lives being lavish or however. But it focuses on how debt is then made in terms of how funds are sourced for whether local authority or the government. So it needs to be development centered.
So my question goes back to all of you. Where are we missing is Zimbabwe?
Maybe first of all is the way we do things in terms of local authority is totally different from any government. When government is budgeting, we really have our consultations. Of course, we have consultations in our ministries. Maybe Ministry of Youth, they are going to consult on local. Then at the end of the day, the onus is on our MPs in the ministry to craft a budget for the country. Unlike local authority, which it's mandatory which we have to do consultation, and obviously our technocrats will have to plan for this coming year. This is what we projected, and massive question rates are coming because we want this much, and it's kind of look in terms of our priorities. Water is but I think government, that component they are short exclusive consultation. Consultation centralized, even decentralized. So I think government side, I think that's where we are really missing it as a country. One of the things the scenes are maybe looking at a local authority, the way it operates, we assume revenue collection. But there are other entities that play a major part, like maybe NGO and the likes, and most of their programs they are donor funding. So it don't we are in quotes, and those are often push agenda. So we realize that maybe the issue of man is all organization of money and man's are short, but also try to see focus on a code of say and say and one the way he put away that the basis of state never sense so and this but also maybe another issue might be the Tina is people maybe naturally we leave our loopholes in our systems to manipulate. Because it's a local authorities, there has been a program, then I'll try last year, the local authorities capacity enhancement program, which they were teaching a lot about good governance. But if you're now going back to our local authorities as now, maybe the city of Bulawayo, which is said to be one of the best run authorities are called. We have issues of corruption that are there. We saw it because the corruption commission coming down to Bulawayo and other local authorities. We've also seen something that was analyzed together and talking about the
Okay.
Yeah, with the pleasure of talking last, to say that. But I think in essence, really, I like to point to areas of the how funds are sourced in terms of which it's not just from revenue, but donor engagements that happen. And I think in those donor engagements, it would help the council particularly to engage with local NGOs or local civil society as well, more intensively. Because what happens is, while these donors bring their own agendas, they are seemingly their own agendas, but they have back conversations with local NGOs and local civil society who they then use to guide, because they believe these people are on the ground and living in these communities. So there needs to be that connection between council and the local organizations and local civil society, so that at least when they have these back conversations with the donors, and when council then engages the donors, the conversations are similar. So I think it's very important to have that engagement here on the ground, so that conversations are carried forward.
Okay, let's talk about public finance in Bulawayo. Is it responsive to young people?
Maybe your question is a bit vague, but what we can say is that yes, it is, because if you look at the methodology that Bulawayo uses as a city in terms of consultation, you have a situation whereby ama you without consultant or mama without consultant and the general public is consultant whenever issues are affected. But however, if you look at ama young people, I think the problem is to young people. Spaces those are maybe, for a lack of a better word, those are political spaces. So if you're getting into a political space, it's an issue of numbers. Then our agendas are say, well, private number, then our youth that we come in pockets. Once we are in pockets, our strategy is but we can say it's responsive to each end and then yes.
I think into Emania like yes alluded to we are not collective. Fathers or mama or the older women, if I believe that unity from different neighborhoods, different words, they could the same thing. You can tell these people have had conversations and their stories solid. But ngithi kusuka kubele lalokho ngani khangelela phansi uthi laba ngaba amawadi lawa thina yithi intshantshu yegazi ngapha yithi esiphethe sonke isitori laba abangapha ngeke sibangesi. But nxa sokhaya indaba indaba yamanzi, for example, it involves everyone. But khonokho ukuthi siba lokukhayelela ngaphansi ukuthi abe culture park ngabe ekhaya abe kulumani is right noma emagwegwe ngapha asemayadini kancane so khonokho kuyahluka ukuthi sikwanisa ukuhlanganisa amakhanda siphume lento yakhaya sibili. Then you look at other things ezisuka zingene in that futhi khangela ukuthi kulabanye who have different gender identities, who have different sexual orientations lapho ugcina ukuthi abavela sibafundi bazo siningi bazo.
Do you think is there any solution unity among
I think it's possible. Uthatha nje ukuthi njengabantu sizehlise and first, but also kube lokuzwisisa ukuthi your struggle is my struggle. Once sizwisisana ukuthi although into esifesana nazo zihlukene, but into eqhatheke ukuthi mina ngizwisise lami ngizwisise. I think it's crucial once we reach that point and we find ukuthi as youth singavumeli ama-social justice issues ethu ukuthi abe too politicized, because ngaba very politicized kusuka kube le ayibakho and then there causes a divide amongst us. But singasifika singabantu sithi no guys, i-issue yamanzi yasipha sonke regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of whatever. How do we face this challenge? How do we thwart this problem that we're facing? We find we can cover more ground to that. But unless and until we reach that point of not looking at our differences, but looking at what's similar and what struggles we have that are similar to each other, or even if not similar, but understanding each other's struggles. Once we don't do that, we're not going anywhere. With generally we are now used to try incentivize development. Well, most of the times if you call for a meeting, Babos would do that.
Yeah. And also maybe just an addition, which we need to come to developmental meetings singing about political jackets. Of course, mina lapho party ngila yiyo sile structure sethu sama youth. Kule agenda esiyipushayo, there's a certain manifesto esilayo as ama youth. So sometimes kuyasiphambanisa lapho mase sezinto develop our communities ukuthi mina yabuya indeyami manifesto lwana from another part of the yakhe manifesto then sesiclash sikhohlwe ukuthi our areas ziyachiyana because those manifestos ziyabe zibroad. What you need in Harare, I don't need it in Bulawayo, particularly in Kulumani. Yes, so that's so I think ngenye into mele siyanzeleze amayouth ukuthi siphume in those political jackets service beyasigqokile, and also siyekele ukuthi si-influence kakhulu ngabantu abadala. Thina sinezinto zethu ezifuna, we must understand even ama-generational changes akhona enzakalayo ukuthi we must not follow unyawo labadala, or we must not follow everything that abadala are doing right now. Of course kulento ezinhle esingazilandela, but that we need a change ukuthi lathi in our generation this is what we did, this is what we changed, siphile ngakho then abalandelayo labo change labo okwabo.
And also once we do we keep those political jackets as different people from different parties or no parties. We are futhi with what I mentioned earlier about council engaging civic society, because in essence civic society is apolitical and non-partisan. So once that political divide in social justice issues, for civil society to engage with these spaces, or either I'm from this party or that party. So once that is diminished, it's easier to engage even at different levels.
In as much as we say I'm organization that are political, but the people that are the actors when it comes to development are politicians at the end of the day. So let's just make sure our agendas are about push maybe the manifesto of sorts, or maybe small where in particular do we fit into their space. Because we cannot say nine where MTC and we tell you blind eye. No. Realistically speaking, away it's
yeah. No, I'm just saying
within
those institutions, but not pushing a political agenda of a certain party.
Yeah.
Maybe in summary, I was just saying, people coming to that meeting, maybe will contribute freely. Not to be some resolution because from a certain party. People must contribute freely in any situation on the ground.
So, Councillor Jele, how can we actively monitor the expenditure?
Well, like maybe local authority, we normally have frequent meetings as councillors, and also food council, you are allowed to come. This will debates. But of course, this is really COVID. So if you cancel your online, you can watch. If you cancel about minutes of everything that we'll be debating, canceling, they are available for anyone to come and buy and read the finance report. Everything will be outlined. Last month maybe we collected this much, we spent this much. Caresses collected this much, we spent this much. So that's another way about the monitoring. Our finances, especially from the local authority point of view.
I think, in essence, what he has mentioned, but also, I think how we can monitor effectively is if we hold council or a local authority or government accountable. Because if you don't step out and say, these things, they will not be available. And we find out that these documents are there, readily available, but no one is taking them up and actually taking time to understand and scrutinize and all that. So it leaves a gap for corruption and things like that to thrive. because we are not holding them accountable. I think also the onus is on us, the members of the public, to actually engage these authorities.
I think only is also so cool, but maybe also an issue of awareness. Most people like and otherwise, what are the mechanisms that are in place? Expenditure, you see, maybe in certain spaces that are there, there is the use of social media in place in now report do we share those reports in certain spaces that are there? Government was associated with focus in meeting, but I will spend it on social media. Communications, you couldn't know as of these courtesy spend money to social media. Although in courts I would say even in limitations, maybe looking at the issue of consultation even corner three WhatsApp. What you maybe feel of at meaning to post that I want to commentaries and try to say without necessarily taking the views of our board, our spaces.
So are there any spaces which we created which as young people to live
spaces are there. I would like to think that our just clear issue maybe ignorant or whatever. Most of the times you can sit maybe get a what you can say. But every time they are always available most of the times. Council office is going to add then the issue of maybe coherence between our departments when it comes to issues to do with young people. Because Bulawa is unique in the sense that we have 15 youth centers dotted around Bulawa. Those are some of the spaces that we can actually say we can take in if young people have any challenges. Recreational meters, recreational balance, and they create synergies among councillors. The councillor will come from the basis of Tata is because that's a safe space in courts for young people to actually converse on many developmental issues about this school.
Maybe also just to address, for instance, from past experience, I can recall that I've normally been invited to Ndlovu send Chabalala with various organizations, these young people, at center to discuss different agendas there. So those are some of the spaces as I was called because like you said, emaholo sokuhlangana nabantu abadala amayouth amaningi ulwazi ukuthi of course bakhona abalezibindi ababuyayo abanye ababuya abanye khona ukuthi babuza ukuthi vele kulani because you know ama-civic organizations mawufika bebize meeting ama-refreshment kulani so ema-youth centers they tend to go because bakwazi bathola something but in a ward meeting mina ngiyabe busy la nginayo imali yama-refreshments la nilingijele lifuna ngimelanga ke-counseling so it's difficult ukuthi abantu bebuye but then kuma-spaces anjalo people tend to come.
So as we are closing the show, what are your last words to the public?
Well, maybe to the public, let's continue engaging, let's continue communicating. People elected us, we are there, elected our councillors, we are always there, system office, we can always engage, not have a forum, Lama MPs, as well as missing persons, so they must also be approachable, but in the practically which is to engage each other. Civil case to man, when I say 2 years about.
Yeah, I will just reiterate what I said earlier. Public finance management is a public affair, and we as the public have the responsibility to engage the authorities. The onus is on us to hold our authorities accountable. So let's take out this.
Maybe in a few ways, taking from Mahatma Gandhi, I would say to us as young people, we must be changed what we want to see in the world.
Okay. That's very curious by your own time as well. So right now we're closing the show. Thank you so much for watching this video. See us next time. Bye.